Revealed, the incredible heartwarming story of Santa's hidden spy transforming Christmas for kids. In the heart of Maplewood, Ohio, where snowflakes kissed the ground, a deliveryman named Jake trudged through the biting cold. At 38, he was more than just a name on the roster at the logistics company, he was a lifeline. Each delivery he made felt like a promise to his aging mother, a proud military veteran whose health had begun to fray. The weight of those responsibilities was heavy, and thoughts of the upcoming Christmas loomed over him like a dark cloud. How could he afford gifts for his mother? This year, joy seemed to be slipping away, just like the last bit of change in his pocket. As Jake navigated the quiet streets littered with for sale signs, he noticed the Thompson house. A single mother and her 2 children were inside, barely scraping by since she lost her job. With a quick glance at his watch, Jake stopped to check in. "How is it going, Mrs. Thompson?" he asked, his voice sincere. Within moments, he was crouched down, listening to little Tommy's wish list, a bicycle that he couldn't afford. Jake felt that familiar tug at his heart. He wanted to give, to help, but his pockets felt emptier than ever. Every Sunday, he'd volunteer at the local food bank, sacrificing his own time for others who were hurting. The clinking of cans and the laughter of families relying on every handout sparked warmth in the cold, wintry air. People may have called him a drifter, lacking ambition, but in his heart, Jake was a champion for the community he loved, no matter how invisible he felt. Then came the news that sent shockwaves through Maplewood. The annual Christmas toy drive, a cherished tradition, was in jeopardy. Last-minute funding cuts from the town council were set to pull the plug. Panic spread like wildfire among families, but the wealthier members looked on with dismissive remarks, calling the situation overly sentimental. Jake felt that sudden spark within him. What if he could step up? What if he became the voice of those who couldn't be heard? Just as he found the courage to act, he received unexpected news. He'd been chosen as Santa's Hidden Spy, an initiative to inspire local heroes. The irony wasn't lost on him. Could a simple deliveryman really champion a cause against an entrenched council? Before he could talk himself out of it, Jake stood outside the council room, his heart racing. He felt the pressure of expectation clinging to him like a heavy coat. What would they think of a deliveryman in worn boots and a faded jacket? Would they listen? Doubts swirled in his mind like the snowflakes drifting past. But deep down, he felt the warmth of his community as hope pushing him forward, reminding him why he needed to fight for the children, the families, and the holiday spirit that was slowly fading away. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each breath, Jake summoned memories of laughter and joy he'd shared with his mother during past holidays. How could he let them down? As the doors opened and the murmurs among the wealthiest townsfolk filled the air, Jake stepped inside, ready to confront everything that stood in the way of spreading hope. Could he redefine the spirit of Christmas for those blinded by greed? Would they see him as just another nobody, or could he be the flame rekindling their hearts? Jake took a deep breath, steeling himself as he entered the council chamber. The walls were adorned with deep oak paneling, reflecting both the wealth of the town and the stubborn indifference that often came with it. A long table dominated the room, its polished surface gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. He noticed a few familiar faces among the council members, entitlement etched in their expressions as they discussed budgets and bottom lines. As he settled into his chair at the end of the table, a sense of vulnerability washed over him. He fidgeted with his jacket, the fabric thin against the biting chill that lingered from outside. They were important people, with names that meant something. While his heart drummed in his chest, he silently reminded himself of the families he wanted to represent. Mrs. Thompson and her children, the kids at the food bank, those smiling faces. They gave him strength. Next on the agenda, Councilman Edwards declared, looking over his glasses with an air of impatience. We need to finalize the budget cuts for the toy drive. It's time to streamline our resources. The room filled with a murmur, some nodding in agreement while others shuffled in their seats. But Jake's heart sank. No! He wanted to shout. But he pushed back the urge. This wasn't the moment for outbursts. He had to find a way to frame his words properly. As Councilman Edwards continued, listing reasons why the toy drive should be sacrificed for financial stability, Jake found the courage to interrupt. Excuse me, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. All eyes turned toward him, their expressions shifting from surprise to curiosity. Who asked this guy? Whispered someone at the back. Jake ignored it and focused on those furrowed brows and skeptical gazes. I know the budget is tight, he said, swallowing hard, but I'm asking you to reconsider the cuts to the toy drive. Christmas isn't just a line item in a ledger. It's about hope and joy for children who might not have otherwise been able to celebrate. There was a moment of silence, thick and charged. Jake could feel the tension in the room, like static before a storm. A few members whispered among themselves, while others regarded him with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Do you honestly think some toys can change a child's life? One council member scoffed, crossing her arms. That hurt. Deep down, he knew it was more than toys. Maybe not, but they can make a difference, he replied, pushing through each word. For a moment, they believe in magic. They believe that someone cares. Isn't that what we want for our kids, especially in times like these? Jake scanned the room, feeling a burning desire to connect with them. I'm just a deliveryman, but I see families in need every day. I see the light in children's eyes when they receive something small, something that shows someone cares. That is what Christmas should be. The council's atmosphere shifted slightly, murmurs taking on a deliberative tone. He could see Councilman Edwards' expression soften, just for a brief second. Maybe it was the smallest crack, but it was there. I think, Jake continued, his voice rising in conviction, that we have the power to bring joy instead of simply counting coins. We can uplift our community in a time when it feels like we've lost everything. It's our duty. As he finished, the room erupted into a cacophony of arguments and counter-arguments. Some supported him, recalling their own childhood memories. But the naysayers were just as loud, fixated on finances. Jake's chest tightened as the battle raged on. Would his plea fall on deaf ears? Suddenly, a soft voice emerged from the back. What if we can cut other expenses, to keep the toy drive? It was Mrs. Whitaker, the elderly council member, her kind eyes filled with resolve. The noise diminished, every head turning to her. Jake's stomach fluttered with a mix of dread and hope. Maybe there was still a chance to keep the spirit of Christmas alive. Would they join him, or would he find himself alone in this fight? And just when he Felt the tides beginning to turn, an unexpected figure entered the room, a familiar face that could change everything. Jake's heart stopped for a moment as he recognized the face stepping through the door. It was Sarah, his old high school friend, now a local news reporter. Her presence added a layer of unexpected tension to the already charged council meeting. A wave of uncertainty washed over him. Was she here to document his struggle, or to sensationalize it? As she approached the front of the chamber, the council members fell silent, their attention shifting once more. Sarah smiled warmly, the kind of smile that made Jake feel a bit lighter even in the heaviness of the moment. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, her voice carrying a familiar warmth. "I couldn't help but overhear the discussion about the toy drive." Jake's pulse quickened. This was a chance to unite the community, showcased not just in the chambers but to the public eye. The council members glanced at one another, visibly unsettled by the unexpected turn of events. "Actually, Sarah," Councilman Edwards said, annoyance surfacing for the first time, "this is an internal council matter." She cut him off gently. "But I think it's an important one. People deserve to hear this debate. After all, the essence of a community lies within its support for one another." Her words hung in the air, striking a chord with the council members. They seemed momentarily caught off guard. Jake watched as her gaze flicked to him, and in that instant, she conveyed encouragement. "Jake," she prompted, "tell us more about why the toy drive matters." He swallowed hard and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the room's attention on him. Every year, the toy drive brings a brightness to children who might not experience the joy of the season otherwise. It's bigger than just presents, it's about community, about showing these kids they haven't been forgotten. As he spoke, memories flooded back his own childhood Christmases, the excitement of gift-giving, the laughter around the tree. It was these moments that had motivated him to stand up for the drive. With Sarah's encouraging eyes on him, he found strength he didn't know he had. He continued, his words gaining momentum. "Children are vulnerable. They're sponges soaking up the world around them. If we take away the chance for them to believe in magic, what message are we sending?" Councilman Edwards shifted in his seat, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "This isn't an emotional contest, Jake," he said. "We have financial responsibilities." "But, Councilman," Jake interjected, "what about our moral responsibility? When we measure success against dollar signs, we forget that every price tag represents real families, real lives." As murmurs erupted around the room again, Sarah stepped closer, her notebook poised for quotes. "This is exactly what the community needs to hear," she said, smiling. "We're not just talking budgets. We're talking about a future." Yet the chamber remained divided. Some nodded in affirmation, while others were glued to their spreadsheets. Jake could feel the weight of all their eyes on him now. It was overwhelming, but he pressed on. "If we can't afford toys for children, then we've lost touch with what really matters." Just then, he noticed Mrs. Whitaker leaning forward, her gray hair catching the light. "I think we can work something out. Maybe we cut back on the extravagances, the food for these meetings, the printed materials we don't truly need." Her voice, usually quiet, carried a weight of authority that surprised everyone. "There's a solution here," Sarah chimed in, eager now. "Imagine the headlines, 'Community Unites to Keep Christmas Alive for Kids.' What could do more for our town than that?" In that moment, Jake felt a flicker of hope. If they all rallied together, they just might change the narrative. But would Councilman Edwards budge? Would they act before time ran out? As the discussions reignited with fervor, Jake caught sight of a new concern brewing in Sarah's expression, a hint of unease. This wasn't just about toys anymore, something deeper was at stake. What truths was she preparing to uncover? The council buzzed with anticipation as decisions loomed. Jake barely registered the time slipping by, but he felt one undeniable truth clinging in the air. They might just be on the brink of something extraordinary, or dire consequences. What would happen if the room divided more on the issue than it already had? Would Jake's words be enough to break the council's resolve? The tension in the room crackled like static, each member of the council weighing their options. Jake could feel the urgency tugging at him, a visceral reminder that every second mattered. Sarah appeared focused, her notepad scribbled with notes, but her eyes darted between the council members, sensing the potential fallout. "Let us consider this from another angle," Councilman Edwards interjected, attempting to regain control. "If we allocate funds for the toy drive, we're diverting resources from other critical areas. We need to prioritize." "Prioritize what?" Jake countered, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "Are we denying childhood joy to pay for new chairs in the council room? I understand that you have to balance the budget, but we have to look beyond the ledgers. We need to reach into our hearts." A hushed silence followed, the room almost holding its collective breath. Councilman Edwards shifted uncomfortably, his bravado faltering alongside his supporters. Jake's words echoed in that silence, a call to action that seemed to resonate with more than just Sarah's presence. Mrs. Whitaker stood taller, her presence becoming a beacon. "I've been a part of this community for decades. We've had our challenges, but we've always rallied for our children. We can't back down now. We owe it to them." More heads nodded in agreement. Inspired by her conviction, Jake felt the embers of hope reignite. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. And it's not just about this year's toys, it's about the lessons we're teaching. We're showing these kids that we care, that they are worth the investment. What are we without love?" As he spoke, he saw faces soften. A few council members exchanged glances, their hardened expressions breaking. Sarah took a step closer to the podium, her eyes gleaming with emotion. "This isn't just a story, this is life-changing for those kids. That report will hit home with families who are struggling. A little compassion goes a long way." Jake turned slightly, meeting Sarah's gaze. It was electric, the kind of connection that felt like they were in this together, fighting for something greater than themselves. And in that moment, he wondered if the battle was about more than just the funds. It was about community, trust, and belief. But then, a voice piped up from the back row. "You're just playing on people's emotions. You're not thinking realistically." The dissenting council member's words pierced through the hopeful atmosphere. Jake's heart sank, he could practically feel the room retract. Edwards seized the opportunity. "You see? That's the issue. It gets emotional, but decisions must be grounded in logic." "Logic?" Jake replied, almost incredulously. "These aren't just numbers. You can't put a price on hope. When we forget the humanity in our finances, we become nothing. What's a community without heart?" As murmurs erupted once again, people tugged at each other's sleeves, exchanging opinions. Sarah scribbled furiously, her focus unwavering. Each line she wrote felt like it could change the narrative. The tension thickened, becoming palpable, and Jake took a step back, letting the gravity of his words sink in. He sensed change in the air, but would it be enough? And then, just as hope seemed to reignite, a sharp ring broke through the tension. Jake's phone buzzed on the podium, a stark reminder of the world outside the chamber. He hesitated, glancing down at the screen. It was a message from his mother. Panic flickered for a brief moment. What if it was bad news? The council debated fiercely while a new weight pressed down on him, and for the first time, he felt uncertainty creeping in amid the fight for the toy drive. He didn't have time for distractions. He had to look at the situation squarely. But a deeper worry tugged at him. What could the message say? As he gathered his thoughts, he knew he had to make a decision. Should he check the message now, or focus entirely on swaying the council? A choice lay before him, heavy with consequences. In that charged moment, the room began to pulse with the sound of growing voices. Would Jake let the outside world interrupt this critical moment of change? Could the message alter everything he fought for? The crossroads loomed large, a storm brewing both inside the chamber and in his heart. Jake's heart raced as he stared at his phone. He felt tethered between two worlds, the weighty discussion of budget priorities and whatever news his mother had sent. The council room pulsed with heated debate, voices rising and falling like waves crashing against a shore. He could feel the energy shift, the breath of hope and despair intertwining like old friends. Jake! Focus! Sarah's voice cut through the noise. He met her gaze again, and the fire in her eyes fueled his urgency. Right, he whispered, bringing his attention back to the looming decision. The council members were locked in a fierce exchange, but there was more at stake here than just numbers. Lives were entwined in this conversation, lives of children who might face a barren holiday season without their small, cherished joys. Can we take a moment to address the heart of this? Mrs. Whitaker's voice rose clear and unwavering amid the clamor. Jake has made his point. We need to remember what the spirit of this community is founded on. We give, not just because we have to, but because we want to. And those kids deserve that. The room quieted again. Seeds of doubt began to sprout amongst the council members. Edward's shoulders sagged slightly, the weight of dissent beginning to buckle beneath the gathering unity around Jake's vision. Listen, Jake took a deep breath, stepping back to the forefront. This isn't just about toys. It's about hope. It's about giving these kids something to look forward to. A tangible sign that they are cared for, that they matter. Can we afford to take away that life piece? It's a few dollars today, but it's so much more tomorrow. Whispers skittered through the crowd. Jake could hear words like hope and challenge dance off the walls. There was a momentum building, a fragile alliance forged from his words and Mrs. Whitaker's passion. But in the back of his mind, the dread of his mother's message loomed larger. What if it was bad news? He felt his stomach twist at the thought. Just as Sarah began to scribble another note, a voice cut in again. But what about the future? It was Councilman Franks, leaning forward with fierce intensity. If we give in to every emotional appeal, where does it end? Are we only recognizing those who shout the loudest? Maybe that's our fault for not listening hard enough, Jake shot back. Maybe we need louder voices for the quieter ones. The tension twisted again, sharper and more aggressive, a thundercloud ready to burst. Yet, through the swirling emotions, Jake caught sight of Sarah's nod, her support shining through the chaos. He knew he was not alone. Let us at least take a vote on it, Mrs. Whitaker proposed, her voice strong. We can't ignore the power of our children's joy, not now. Let us give them something worth fighting for. Jake's breath caught, every heart in that room was caught in a web of hope and fear. The moment felt like a fragile bubble, so delicate it could pop with the slightest pressure. The council hesitated. And then it happened. Jake's phone buzzed again, insistent this time. It was almost mocking amidst the deliberation. The council had not yet concluded, but his attention kept pulling to the screen, a siren beckoning him to urgency. Fingers trembling, he glanced down one last time. Would he risk everything over one tiny screen? His mother's words could wait, but what if they couldn't? Now or never, he whispered under his breath. As he stared at the phone, a choice stretched out before him revealed a truth that could send his world spiraling, or press forward, blindly fighting for the future of children and the community's heart. Could he muster the courage to take both roads, or would one side have to crumble? With the fate of the toy drive still precariously unsettled, Jake felt the weight of both futures pressing against him. Would he choose the message that might shatter his composure, or would he persist in fighting for something brighter? The air crackled. Was this the moment everything would change? Jake's heart thundered in his chest as he wrestled with the weight of his decision. With each pulse, the phone screen glowed brighter, urging him to look closer, to respond to whatever call had come through from his mother. He could feel the murmurs of the council, the edge of impatience among the members sharpening the air. It was a moment suspended in time, a fragile standoff between duty and personal crises. Could he really ignore the text any longer? Seeking a brief escape from the maelstrom of voices, he stepped toward the back of the room. The flickering fluorescent light overhead buzzed in his ears, amplifying the cacophony of voices behind him. He swiped the screen with shaking fingers, and the message from his mother read like a ticking bomb. "Jake, we need to talk. It's about your father." The words hung there, hanging ominously in the air like a weight pressing against his chest. At once, the fight for the toy drive felt distant and trivial. Jake's mind spun to memories: the laughter at holiday gatherings, the warmth of a family around a tree, the spirit of giving that had always started with his father, often playing Santa, delivering joy to every child. The musty scent of old paper and ink surrounded him, reminiscent of the countless letters he'd penned to Santa as a kid, letters filled with hope and wishes, not just for toys but for moments that made life whole. What could it mean? His heart raced as he looked down at the phone again. Was this the moment that could change everything? A choice hung in the air, thick and suffocating. He thought of the children in the community, their hopeful faces lit up by dreams, and of the holiday spirit that had woven its magic through their lives. He thought of their struggles, their needs, and the message he had been crafting to bring them all a glimmer of joy. "Jake!" Sarah's voice was sharp, echoing faintly from the room and jerking him back. "We need you." He turned slowly, hesitating in the doorway, torn between two worlds: his father's secrets and the hope of the children. In that moment, clarity washed over him. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need your attention," Jake called out, his voice carrying an authority that surprised even him. Council members turned their heads, whispers fading into silence. "I can't stay silent anymore. The truth is, my father was the one who started the toy drive years ago. But there's more." He lingered, feeling the ground beneath him shift. Gasps filled the room, punctuating the air with disbelief. They had all known Jake's father as a kind-hearted contributor, a quiet figure in the background, but now, Jake was about to surface secrets that wrapped them all in a greater purpose, a legacy to uphold. "We can't just focus on numbers. If my father is facing struggles, if my family is in trouble, I can't just ignore that. But we can find a way to fight for both, to honor what he started and support those who need us. Jake's heart thudded. Was this the connection he needed to galvanize support, to unite the council behind not just the toy drive but the spirit of giving? Let us transform this, not just for the children but for my father's legacy. The air felt electric, a wave of potential and emotion swelling through the room. Jake's words took root. People sat up straighter, some even leaning in closer as the promise of hope ignited their spirits. But just as momentum built, doubt crept back in. Councilman Franks exchanged worried glances, and his brow furrowed. You can't possibly expect us to guarantee funds if things are uncertain. Jake clenched his fists. It's about belief in the community, isn't it? Not just in what is seen but in what is felt. He locked eyes with Sarah, who nodded encouragingly, her gaze steady. Would they see the power in his father's love, as well as the love within their community? Together, we can be that light this season, he urged, his voice rising. Let us shine brighter than the darkness. Let us pledge today. But as Jake spoke, the reality of his mother's words loomed overhead, unresolved. What would he find when he returned home? The council's attention felt like a gathering storm, but just as a cheer was about to erupt, his phone vibrated again. He resisted the urge to look. Instead, he steadied himself, allowing the hope that had ignited in the room to swirl around him. Just as the council seemed to lean into his vision, he knew he had a storm to weather back home. Would this moment lead to the salvation of both the community and his family, or was he staring into the eye of chaos? The weight of the future loomed over him as uncertainty clashed with ambition. Jake had to decide how his life would change from here once and for all. The room was charged with energy, as if everyone was waiting for a spark to ignite. Jake took a deep breath, trying to summon that spark from somewhere deep within him. Now was the time to connect the dots between his father's legacy and the hope radiating from his community. I believe our strength comes from our past, he shouted, his resolve cementing with each word. We owe it to my father to keep this drive not just alive, but thriving. We can protect his spirit, his love for giving, even if he is struggling now. The faces around him were a mix of skepticism and intrigue, but a flicker of hope ignited in some eyes. He could see Sarah at the back, clapping softly, her encouragement weaving through the crowd's doubt. What if we create a fundraiser that not only supports the toy drive but highlights my father's spirit? He continued, gaining momentum. A community event where families come together, sharing stories and traditions, just like my dad did for us. Councilman Franks crossed his arms, still wary. And if things go south for your family? We can't risk the budget on unknowns. Jake's heart sank for just a moment. But a wave of warmth surged through him, pushing the doubts aside. This was bigger than just one moment, one struggle. Uncertainty is part of life, he said, stepping forward with sincerity. Each kid who smiles because of a gift represents hope. We don't know what the future holds for any of us, but together, we can build that hope into something unshakable. My father wants to see the smiles, not just the dollar signs. As he finished, silence enveloped the room, palpable and expectant. He could feel the energy pulsating, even Councilman Franks seemed to ponder the notion. It was a moment suspended in time where desperation intertwined with possibility. Then, just as the tension threatened to snap, one member raised a hand, a veteran of the council who watched Jake grow up. You know, she started, her voice softer but steady, we've all felt the impact of the toy drive. Your father made it more than just a charity, he created a community with it. Maybe we could blend tradition with hope, just as you're saying." A murmur spread through the council. Jake's chest swelled with gratitude. Sarah beamed, stepping forward alongside him. "We can work together, rally the community, and use their stories to market the event. Every family has their own connection to the toy drive. This could be more than just raising funds, it could be a celebration of everything we believe in." The council members exchanged glances, a renewed spirit weaving into the atmosphere. Old concerns seemed to dissipate. With every heartbeat, Jake began to feel their resolve solidify. They were ready to take a leap of faith together. "Let us brainstorm together over the next few days," Jake suggested, his heart pounding with excitement. "We can create something beautiful for my father, and for all the children who count on us." A slow clap started from the back, and soon the entire room echoed with a chorus of applause, voices rising like a tide. Jake couldn't help but smile. This was what it felt like to unite for something greater. But in the midst of triumph, reality crept back. His phone buzzed again, a reminder that back home, his world was unraveling. His mom's words echoed in his mind, sharper than before. How would he face her when he returned? The energy in the room was bright, but dark clouds still loomed at home. As Jake turned to look at the council, hope shimmering wildly in the air, it hit him. There was a battle ahead, one that was deeply personal. Would the community's love and support be enough to carry him through this storm? The questions lingered, leaving a tight knot of emotion in his gut as he stepped into the challenge awaiting him outside these walls. Would his father's legacy wrap around his family like a warm blanket, or would it unravel under the pressure of their hidden struggles? The holiday season was unraveling into something far more complex than he had imagined. Jake stepped out of the council building, the cool night air hitting him like a wave. The applause still rang in his ears, but the warmth it generated transformed into a chill as he thought of home. He blinked against the streetlights, pushing back the uncertainty clouding his mind. His phone buzzed again. He glanced down. It was a text from his mom, only one word, "Please." A rush of anxiety gripped him. The weight of her plea felt heavier than any challenge he'd faced that evening. He quickened his pace towards the car, each step pulling him closer to the real battle ahead: his family. As Jake slid into the driver's seat, he closed his eyes for a moment. He pictured the community gathered together, bonding over old stories and laughter. That image was a lifebuoy, but had he lost sight of what mattered most? His family was struggling. They had their own stories buried beneath years of unspoken pain. What if his father's legacy couldn't save them from the shadows that loomed over their home? The engine rumbled to life, shaking him from his thoughts. The drive home felt longer than usual, the streets illuminated by festive lights, each one a reminder of the joy his dad always brought. It felt wrong to revel in that light when his mother was likely somewhere in the dark, battling demons of her own. Pulling into the driveway, Jake hesitated. He could see the glow from the living room window, a flicker of hope against the deepening night. With a deep breath, he stepped out of the car, his heart drumming a nervous beat. Would he find his mother lost in despair, or could he bring her a glimmer of the excitement he felt at the council meeting? He pushed the front door open gently. The familiar creak echoed through the house, and his heart raced. There she was, sitting on the couch in the dim light, absent-mindedly folding a blanket. "Hey," he said softly, stepping into the room. She looked up, her eyes hollow yet filled with an emotion he couldn't quite decipher. "Jake, you're back." "Yeah," he responded, taking a seat across from her. "I'm sorry I didn't come home earlier." I had a meeting about the toy drive. Her expression flickered, a mix of pride and something heavier. I see. How did it go? It went well, Jake said, his confidence growing as he spoke about the community's response. But then, just like that, the conversation took a sharp turn. Mom, how are you doing? The question hung in the air, dense and heavy. She looked down, fiddling with her fingers. I'm managing, sweetie. Just trying to hold everything together. Trying isn't enough, he replied gently. You don't have to carry this alone. As he spoke, Jake saw the pain in her eyes. It dawned on him, they were both holding their struggle like a fragile secret, unsure of how to lay it bare. We need to talk about Dad, he urged, his voice trembling slightly. Seconds ticked by like hours, every breath heavier than the last. His mother finally nodded, her lips trembling. I know we need to. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, instantly shattering the tension. Jake jumped up, heart racing. What was that? They both exchanged startled glances, and without thinking, Jake rushed towards the sound, his mind racing. Had something broken? Or worse, did something happen to someone? He pushed the kitchen door open. A pile of pots had toppled over, but nestled among them, a small piece of paper fluttered to the ground. Jake picked it up, his heart pounding. It was a letter, but not just any letter. He recognized his father's handwriting immediately. Mom! Jake called out, his voice rising with urgency as he turned the paper over in his hands. What secrets lay hidden in those words? Would they hold the answers they desperately needed? His mother appeared behind him, her expression shifting from concern to horror as she saw the letter. Jake, wait, but it was too late, he had already begun reading. What could this letter reveal? And would it change everything they thought they knew about their family? Jake unfolded the letter, anxiety coursing through him. Each word felt like a petal unfolding, revealing a secret flower hidden beneath layers of pleasantries. Dear family, he began reading aloud, his mother leaning closer, tension tightening between them. Her breath caught as the sound of his father's voice echoed in the room, both comforting and haunting. As Jake read on, his father wrote of hope, speaking about love and perseverance during trying times. But then the tenor shifted, revealing doubts and fears that Jake had never imagined his father felt. There are things in this world that are hard to face, his father had written. I am terrified of failing you, of not being the man you need. But I have a plan. What does he mean? His mother whispered, her voice trembling. A plan for what? Jake pressed on, his eyes scanning the paper with urgency. His heart raced as he continued to read about a hidden project, something his father had been working on quietly. A toy drive? No, something bigger, a community outreach program designed not just to bring gifts, but to foster hope in families facing despair, much like their own. They must know that they are not alone, the letter continued. I want to leave a legacy of kindness. What is this about not alone? Jake could feel the tremors in his mother's voice. I don't know, he said, meeting her eyes, which shimmered with unshed tears. But it sounds like Dad wanted to help others. Like he was afraid we'd never understand. He searched the paper, noticing a series of notes scribbled in the margins, dates, and names. He squinted, tracing his finger over one line, call Jessie, she knows how to get it started. Jessie? Jake had heard his father mention her before. A friend, someone involved in charity work. Why hadn't they reached out sooner? Mom, we can do this, Jake said, adrenaline rushing through him. This project, it could be an amazing way to honor Dad. We could bring something good to the community just like he wanted. She hesitated, pain still clouding her features. But Jake, what if it's too much? What if I can't handle this alone? You won't be alone, he insisted, stepping closer. We can do it together. I understand now. I want to make Dad proud. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about everyone who needs help too. His mother looked down, her fingers gripping the edge of the table, and for the first time, Jake saw a spark of something beyond despair, faint but growing. Hope. Just then, a noise drew them both back to reality. A loud knock resonated through the house, startling them. Jake exchanged worried glances with his mom. Who would be out here at this hour? Stay here, he murmured, setting the letter down carefully on the kitchen counter as he moved toward the door. He could feel his heart thumping wildly in his chest. It was like the world outside had come alive again, and everything felt at once thrilling and terrifying. As he glanced through the peephole, his stomach dropped. A figure stood there, silhouetted sharply against the porch light. He couldn't recognize them, but they looked troubled. Jake? The voice called softly yet urgently. Please, I need to talk to you. Panic and curiosity flooded him. How could this stranger know his name? What did they want? Jake opened the door slowly, cautiously. The sight of the person made his heart skip a beat. This night was about to deliver more surprises than he ever anticipated. What could this stranger want? Would they have answers that could change everything they thought they understood about their family and their future? Jake opened the door, squinting into the stark light illuminating the face of a young woman, maybe in her 20s. Her eyes were wide with concern, and her breath came in quick, jagged gasps as if she'd been running. Jake! She exclaimed, her voice almost a whisper, I'm so glad you're home. You don't know me, but I'm Jessie. She paused, struggling with her words, urgency lacing her tone. I'm here about your dad. I just found out everything. He needs your help. Jake's heart raced. My dad? What do you mean? Jessie looked down, gathering herself. I've been working with your father on a community project for the toy drive, and I've seen so much passion in him. But he's been facing some hard times. He wanted to create something beautiful for families in need, but he couldn't do it alone anymore. The weight of her words hit Jake like a punch. He glanced back at his mom, who lingered in the doorway, her brow furrowed in confusion. This was a crack in their reality, a chance to step beyond grief into action. What do you know? Jake asked, his voice steadying. How can we help? Jessie took a breath, a glimmer of hope lighting her eyes. Your father wanted to turn the toy drive into something bigger, something that brings families together during the holidays. But recent challenges have kept him from moving forward. I was beginning to think we wouldn't have enough support, but seeing the council meeting earlier today, it inspired me. If you're with me, we can get this off the ground. We need your heart like your dad had. Jake felt a flicker of warmth spread through him. The toys, the laughter, the love, they were all waiting to come alive in a flurry of community spirit. We can make this happen, he said, voice rising with excitement. But how? His mom interjected, finally stepping closer. What do you need us to do? Jessie turned to her with warm empathy. It starts with a vision. We need to gather people, families, volunteers, everyone who sees the magic in what your father dreamed. We can host an event, a big community fundraiser. We have to show everyone that giving is more than monetary donations. It's an act of love. Yes, Jake exclaimed, energy flooding his veins. That's exactly what we talked about. It's what I want to create. Then let us get started right away, Jessie replied, her determination infectious. We can use social media to spread the word and set a date for the event. We'll get local businesses involved. They care deeply about the community. With your father's story as our foundation, we can draw them in. His mother's eyes shone with the spark of newfound hope. I can help with logistics and planning, she offered, her voice gaining strength. We can even reach out to people at the food bank where Jake volunteers. They'll want to be part of this. Exactly. Jessie nodded vigorously, her excitement reaching a fever pitch. Together, we can weave together old traditions and new hopes. Your family's legacy can inspire so many. Jake's heart swelled. It was finally beginning to take shape, the light at the end of an otherwise shadowy tunnel. He glanced at the kitchen counter where his father's letter lay, envisioning how proud his dad would be that they were all ready to pick up the torch. There's something even more important, Jake said, looking between both women. We also need to make sure this isn't just a one-time event. We have to build a lasting presence in our community, a group dedicated to spreading kindness year-round. His mother's face lit up. That's brilliant. This toy drive can serve as a launch pad for something bigger. A yearly tradition that holds our community together. I can help with the outreach, Jessie interjected, her enthusiasm infectious. Let us put together a meeting for volunteers. When can we start? Tomorrow, Jake said decisively. We need to get moving. Let us meet here. We'll figure everything out and we'll rally our friends and family. We must honor my dad and what he stood for. No child should feel alone, especially during Christmas. As Jessie nodded, the atmosphere grew electric with anticipation, connected by passion and purpose. Jake felt the burdens easing, shifting from anxiety to action. They were no longer just sitting with the weight of grief, they were standing at the brink of a new beginning. Together, they would redefine Christmas in Maplewood, a celebration of hope that spanned beyond toys and gifts, embracing love and community. The kitchen buzzed with ideas, plans starting to come together, and Jake realized that maybe, just maybe, the magic of the season could thrive again through their own hands. He would honor his father's spirit by lighting a path for his community. Suddenly, laughter echoed from the living room, drawing them back to the present. Beyond the weight of responsibilities, the night held a pulse of excitement. Together, through unity and love, they could bring joy and light back into their community's holiday season. Jake looked at his mother, then Jessie, and grinned. Let us change the world, one child at a time. The real magic of Christmas starts now. As he spoke, hope blossomed, strong enough to carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. They were a family, a community, and together they would reignite that spirit of giving. And with that, they began to craft a story of transformation. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories about hope and family. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Your voice matters. Comment below what you feel about this inspiring conclusion, and let's continue to uplift one another. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation happen. Don't wait not even one more second to share the love. Every gesture counts in building our community, so let us spread kindness together.